United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Open this meeting with public comments. Any public comment? Darryl, you're the public, got a comment?
We're good today, just had an enjoyable weekend with some sunshine, that was nice, right?
It was nice.
Okay, go ahead with the Commissioners' Community Update. Let's see, I attended the Rocky Mountain Development Council's Financial Board and the Board of Directors meeting, Board of Health meeting, department heads, HR training, participated in Public Works interview process, and receives a couple of road calls. That's pretty much it.
I would like to hear more about the RMDC meeting as far as the finances, maybe at the end of the meeting today, if
Yeah.
you're agreeable to that. And also participated in the Public Works interviews, the Board of Health meeting, and I want to give kudos to Julie for the packets she's putting together for that department. Department heads meeting, the HR training, I thought was excellent. And then also there was an economic development meeting with the Montana Economic Development Association this week in Dillon. And I would like to share with you a little bit more too about what was shared there from the county perspective. Again, regarding the legislature passing on so many of their responsibilities to property taxpayers. And we also had a meeting with the USDA on broadband services for rural Montana. Of course, that's been a huge issue for Broadwater County. So I'll share more of that with you too.
Okay.
I attended the interviews, LEPC. Let's see, what else is it here? The Compensation Board and Health Board. Had several calls on roads. Otherwise, it's business as usual.
Okay, let's see, move on to approve minutes, minutes from April 18th, April 23rd, and April 25th.
We'll move to approve those minutes as submitted for each of the 18th, the 23rd, and the 25th of April.
I'll second.
Motion made to approve minutes for dates April 18th, 23rd, and 25th, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same, motion carries.
Thank you.
A copy of the memorandum of understanding between the Broadwater County Commissioners and the Broadwater County Weed District Board. The main points are that the commissioners have final say on personnel and financial. So I guess we need to have a motion to adopt this.
I so move.
I'll second.
Motion been made, a second to adopt memorandum of understanding between Broadwater County Board of County Commissioners and Broadwater County Weed District Board. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Same, opposed, same. Okay, we go ahead with these journal adjustments even though we have them on today.
Yeah,
Okay, we have, this is a journal adjustment that was excluded from the January ones because of concerns and some questions about it that have been answered, so I would move that we accept the motion to move to adopt this along with the other journal adjustments from January.
so move.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt this excluded journal adjustment from January, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same, motion carries. We have a journal adjustments for February.
Those appear to have been reviewed by at least two of us, so I would move that we approve the journal adjustments.
Okay, I have one, this one for the Shogun turn lane. Was the payout on this one not supposed to be 92?
That's, actually, it's a paid to us, so it's a received amount, and what he's doing it is in pieces, so we are getting the 92 plus another 22 or 27, I forget what the second
Okay.
payment is. So that's probably a portion of one of those payments.
Okay, okay,
And we got a receipt from MBAC on that will coincide.
okay.
And they've taken no money at all for having facilitated that whole agreement. They were simply the pass-through for us.
So this will have a motion to approve these February adjustments.
So move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve these. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
And this is more adjustments from February. Looks like they've all been.
Or March. Oh, I guess there's two for February and
These
two
are
for
just all
March.
February, yeah. So there's a February and a March, can we just accept both the February and March
Mhm.
journal adjustments?
Yes,
Okay. Motion for that?
so move.
Motion's been made. Second?
Second.
Seconded to accept February and March journal adjustments. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, one of the items on the agenda today is at 11 o'clock, Debbie Kelly, Finance Officer, Budget 101 presentation. She is not here today, she's out ill, so I wonder if we can't change that to Wednesday and make it mandatory attendance?
She's already on for 10, do we wanna change that? Just add it?
Yeah, she actually isn't expected to be here on Wednesday at 10, but we could add it, I'd say maybe the same time,
Okay.
11-ish. And then if everybody can get on the same page as far as how the budget is built, it might actually help us to build the team. Share an understanding.
I guess we're waiting also, we can discuss the agenda, because that agenda has to go out for the meeting on the 7th has been moved to the 8th because we have a meeting on the 7th in Bozeman. So will we meet, what, Tuesday and Wednesday next week then?
We can, I'm good with
Okay.
that.
Let's see, we wanna get Dry Gulch on the agenda. White Horse and what's the other one, Longhorn?
Longhorn, yep.
Do we wanna just do a revised agenda for the 14th?
No, for the 14th, we can still have that done Monday, the 7th, because we'll be back for sure by 5,
Okay.
but even if we're not, we could work with Michelle via email, phone calls, and have the week to put that together. It would be wise, I think, to put the building on the 14th. That way there's 2 weeks for
Okay,
Corey to get everything together.
the ambulance building or the
Docks building, yeah.
docks building? Okay, we're close to 10:30. We'll go ahead with John and Mary Hinman, boundary relocation of lots in Springville Original Town Site.
I guess we're just here for an update on, if any correspondence came in from any of the other attorneys or any decisions on that boundary relocation issue. Or if you have any questions.
Nicole, do you have some?
I do. I received a response, unfortunately, Tara Depew, our Mako land use attorney, she's on vacation. Brian Hopkins, general legal counsel for Mako, is also on vacation. And Susan Swimley, who they sometimes call in on questions like this, she's also on vacation. So I sent an email out to Tara and our county attorney, Swanson, just for, I sent Colleen, is it Dowdall's, okay. Your attorney, I sent her opinion as well as Tara's opinion to both Tara and Corey, and I've not heard back from Corey, but Tara gave a brief response in an email. I don't know that that can be made public without me getting her express written consent, because she does have a confidentiality notice attached to her emails, so they're not necessarily for public consumption. And then I also received a response from Brian Hopkins. So I can give you the general rundown of the response from Brian Hopkins, if you'd like, but again, it's got a confidentiality notice if you're not the, so essentially it was only for me to read unless I get their approval. So just the summarization of Brian Hopkins, he suggested, he said, ultimately the county attorney is the primary legal advisor to the county, and was curious if the county attorney considered asking for an AG's opinion, since there seems to be no applicable case law. So I'm thinking that may be an option, since you have two different attorneys with differing opinions, to get the Attorney General to weigh in on this and provide a legal opinion. Keep in mind that that could take up to a year.
One of the questions that I had, and Bernadette, maybe you could help with this. One of the issues seems to be with the attorneys is the lack of public participation. If we don't have subdivision review, there's no public participation, which is one of the highest, most highly regarded aspects of the Constitution that we have. So what I was wondering is there a way to, and this might have to be an AG's opinion and part of the question, but is there a way to maybe find a way to work with the different attorneys on this and find a compromise? Either the subdivision review process or maybe instead a contract that goes with a certificate of survey or a boundary relocation. Is there anything like that you've ever heard of?
No, I think as far as public participation, the only thing that may, and it depends on who's reading the paper, is when it's brought to you for a decision on the exemption process, is if you say, well, we'll think about it for a week and make a decision next week. So I don't know if that would incorporate any, generate anyone to come. But I with an exemption process, the law set up that you can't put the subdivision regulations tied to it.
Okay.
I don't know of any way to do that. I think it would either have to be an exemption or the subdivision process. I mean, they're
Okay.
divided for a reason, I guess.
Sure.
My point is, Springville is a township plat, it's not even a subdivision, that is my point. If it's not a subdivision, I should be able to move those property boundaries.
And I hear what you're saying, that's why I'm trying to find a compromise, and I'm just not sure there is one in law. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying. We just don't have an attorney that has said, here's some case law that allows you to do it.
Well, we know the Springville plat is not as, wasn't made during the whole subdivision process back in 1974. It was made in 1898. So is it even, quote, a subdivision?
I would leave that to you guys, because I think that was covered in definitions, correct?
It was, and there was an AG's opinion, through my conversations with Tara, that there was an AG's opinion that if it's not an incorporated city or town, then it can be viewed as a subdivision. So since Springville is not an incorporated city or town, it's viewed as a subdivision.
I think one of the major problems is the definition of a subdivision. Like I said, even today, DEQ definition of a subdivision is different than planning's definition of a subdivision. So it's, when I'm talking with a person that handles all the DEQ work, and they're like, oh, you don't need to do a subdivision, they're over 20s. And I said, yes, we do have to do a subdivision as far as planning, but it's not a subdivision in the state's eye as far as the DEQ and septic systems are. But they call it a subdivision. Anything under 20 acres is a subdivided lot. Even if it's a family transfer, they view it as a subdivided lot. So subdivision has a totally different definition, even in today's standards, between DEQ and planning. The definition of subdivision, as far as, say, this Springview, was totally different in 1800s than it was in the 1970s and then into today. Even in the 70s, when the subdivision regulations came into effect, they were kind of like DEQ. If they were 20 acres, you could do 20-acre parcels, or you could do occasional sales. So it's like yearly, the definition of subdivision changes. So I think that's where some of the interpretation at the time when Springville was created, the term was used as a subdivision plat on the top, a plat of Springville, but it's a totally different definition of what a subdivision is in today's rules. So I think that's where, again, just like the boundary relocation, it's all interpretation.
Sure. We were just talking about the agenda. I wonder if we couldn't add to our list for Corey, this subject, and perhaps pursuing that AG's opinions that we have. We have a road to follow. I personally don't want to say no, because I think your plan makes a lot of sense. We just don't know how we can do it within the confines of the legal opinions we do have. So the AG's opinion would give us kind of the parameters that would set this up.
Well, how long do we have to wait for this AG opinion?
It depends on the Attorney General. What we do is the county attorney puts to Attorney General Fox this situation, and the Attorney General then will review it, because there's no case law to follow, and then he will issue an opinion, and that becomes, I believe an Attorney General's opinion is akin to state law, until the legislature either overturns it or solidifies it in law. So it could be relatively quick. It could be, like Nicole said, up to a year.
Most commonly a year, I take it.
They don't have they don't have to follow a time schedule necessarily, so.
I got a payment schedule, they can have that for a while. Yeah, so public review you're talking about, just have, then we have to pay it to make up that book that you were talking about?
subdivision.
If you went forward with subdivision, you'd go through the subdivision process.
Right. Yeah.
And that could be started immediately, there's no time, I don't think there's any need to delay that, no, okay.
Okay. I guess we gotta take a little time, to think about which route we wanna go, so.
I would put it in front of the Attorney General.
Yeah, I think that'd be best for everybody.
Has anybody talked to the county attorney? I mean, he has weighed in and out.
No, I've emailed him, but I've not received a response.
Is that something you guys could talk to Corey?
Mm-hmm. He's gonna be on the agenda for next week, if you guys wanna come back for that, you're welcome to. Most certainly, yes.
Is Springville now a platted town?
Yes, I
Yeah.
believe that's how it's
I think
defined,
so.
platted township.
Platted township?
Town site,
Town site.
platted town site.
And what year was that done, 18?
98, I believe. It's in the description. The other question I have is, if this, let's say they decide it's a subdivision, and two people come before you with, they're saying you only can move 5 lots. You have 2 people come before you, and they both wanna move 5 lots, how do you decide who gets to move 5 lots? I mean, somebody could say discrimination type thing. It doesn't, the whole 5 lot thing doesn't make sense either. I mean,
And that also needs to be clarified with the Attorney General, and that often happens with law, that the legislators don't consider how it's interpreted in use, and oftentimes the Attorney General will weigh in on law to clarify what that law means, how it's to be used. This is one of those examples.
and I would imagine if that would happen, I mean, that would put the county at a situation where, I mean, it could be a lawsuit for discrimination or whatever.
And we understand that anybody can sue at any time for any reason, it's just the world we live in. And that's why we're cautious and try and work with attorneys and get Attorney General's
And the other thing
opinions.
is the lots that I have, that are in Springville have no septic, no roads, no sewers, nothing set up. If it was a subdivision, I would have that, I would think, based on the laws that were created in 1970 something. So. And with the new laws, you gotta stay so many feet away from the creek, and some of those lots are not even viable to build on because of all the new laws. So, that's my complaint
Yeah,
and the reason we wanna move them.
yeah, like I said, I like your plan, just gotta figure out a way to make it work.
Well, time is important for us too.
Sure.
Here's a copy of the plat of Springville, 1898, just for you guys to have as a record. You bet.
So what lots in here do you own, what blocks of lots do you own?
Yeah.
I have a map of that. These are the ones we own. You see, some of them are pretty, this one's 3.6 acres, I think. Some of them are pretty small. Yeah. And then we own the 308. Not really good with directions. I think it's these 4. 19 through 28 and 40 and through 44.
So you-
Okay.
This is their overall property, the railroad, and they own everything. This way the railroad, this quarter here, and then these dark lots here.
An idea is to bring about these small ones.
So you don't own this quarter over here?
I own
Yes,
this,
they do.
and then this right here.
Oh, okay, okay. And the lot lines you're readjusting are these lots here?
Yeah, some of these right down here,
They're
bring
pretty
them
small.
this way, so it would bring Springville, make it bigger up here, some lots. I can leave that too, to look at.
Thank you.
And I don't know if this helps weigh in, but Julie, their sanitarian, said that the lots are grandfathered for sewer and well. I mean, I have to meet a certain size requirement, but it's pretty small, and a lot of the houses in Springville don't even have replacements, drain field areas. A lot of people are building over the top of them with garages and stuff, and it's just a mess. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to make the lots bigger, so they're easier to build on. And less of a nightmare in the long run.
Yeah,
If you did the boundary location, though, you would still have to go through DEQ.
Yeah, we did all the DEQ on them all.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Because we went ahead with everything because we were told we could move them, and then all of a sudden, you know, we dug out the test pits, we had them go out there, we had, BSE ready to put the roads in. We had all that done, and then, because we thought we could move them, and then all of a sudden, the county says no. And now we're looking at a year, I mean, we got a lot of money stuck into this whole project, and now we're at a dead standstill, and we've been waiting 3 weeks now.
and you're not necessarily, you could go through subdivision review, right, Nicole? And that could start immediately if you wanted, it just, you know, takes this whole
And
discussion
it takes
off
a
the
lot
table.
longer too, the whole subdivision process.
What is the timeline?
You know, I guess it would depend on, if you were, like, how many lots you were going to do at once.
And there's a lot more expense to that than what we were doing. Because you have to create the whole subdivision, and there's an expense issue with that. Where moving them was a lot less expensive, and when we purchased the land, we had planned on doing that, and before we even purchased the land, we went to the county and asked them, and they gave us the go-ahead. So we went ahead with the purchase, knowing we wouldn't have to go through the whole subdivision thing, which is a lot more expensive.
Not only that, I went home and upped my offer quite a bit, because I saw the value in that.
We thought we did our homework before we purchased the land.
Yeah. I understand your frustration.
we wanna table this until the meeting on the 8th.
Yeah, and postpone, I would say. I'm not sure if this particular subject, I'm almost wondering what we need to do is just have a fresh discussion with Corey on the 8th on this. But certainly we can include this in the agenda for public disclosure.
Does anybody else have any other comments at all? So I guess we'll postpone this decision until the May 8th meeting with Corey and see if we can get something started with an AG, or maybe folks decide if you wanna go AG or if you wanna go with subdivision. So we'll postpone this until the meeting on the 8th. Okay, we'll move on to the 1045 WWC engineering authorizations for CDBG planning grant to upgrade. Do we have, were they coming or?
I don't know if they were gonna come or not. I can add some filler if you want.
Okay.
And Nicole, feel free to weigh in too. Jeremy wrote a CDBG grant for us, I think 2 years ago. We didn't get it the first round, the second round they didn't do. I think that was related to the legislature. And so the round is up again, it's up today, today's the deadline. The application's ready to go, I believe the support letters are ready to go. The planning grant, and the CIP and the growth policy are all things that we've done in the past. So the growth policy hasn't been updated since 2003. It's been reviewed and left the same, but we really do need to update it. And this would give us the ability to do that. Oh, hi, good. Oh, zip it then. Hey,
Talking
Jeremy.
about you.
Let you talk about the
Sorry,
grant.
I'm a little bit late.
That's all right.
So this, I know we talked about this last year, so it just took this long for Department of Commerce to get their ducks in a row. I don't know what was going on up there. These are typically due in, like the July 1st of every year, and they just never opened it up last year. It just kept dragging out and dragging out. So I think what happened, and I haven't gotten a definitive answer on this, but I think what happened is they took the 2017 funds, they rolled it into 2018, and they're just doing one for both, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what's going on. So they opened it up today, so they start accepting applications today. So, and of course they changed the applications a little bit, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of rewriting to get it to their new format, but it won't take me too long. But since we do have a new chair, Laura was the chair last time, and you signed all the documents, so I just need signatures on the commitment letter and the application form. So this is for an update to the capital improvements plan, the growth policy, and the floodplain ordinance, to bring the floodplain ordinance up to the new, there's been some state changes in the floodplain ordinance, so it's just to bring that up to that, so.
I move that we sign the new authorization for the CDBG planning grant to update growth policy, floodplain, and CIP.
I'll second.
Is this a match grant or what?
Yeah, so we'd be asking for 37,500 in grant funds from CDBG, and the county would match 12,500. So it'd be a $50,000 project to get all the documents completed.
County share was 12,000.
12,500. And I think, if I understand right, I think the planning board's been working on the growth policy. So, the growth policy part, we would kind of just be jumping in to help finish that up. Get the, maps updated, get, updated data, as far as housing, demographics, those types of things updated in the growth policy, and then get it through the public process. So we would work with the planning board on that. And then the capital improvements plan, we would just update from what we had. The big piece of the capital improvements plan that I think we wanna focus on, with this update is bridges. The last CIP, we talked about bridges, we had a bridge inventory, but one thing when we submitted that TCEP application a few years ago, there was no bridge assessments in that capital improvements plan. So I think we would wanna develop a better bridge program in that capital improvements plan. Maybe actually have some bridge assessments as part of that CIP, so that we can start going after TCEP funds, and be more competitive.
Sounds good.
Everything else in the CIP is pretty standard stuff, so that's the one piece I think we just need to make a little bit stronger. Is the bridge program.
Nicole, how far is the planning board on the growth policy? I know you guys have had a lot of other stuff you've been working on.
We've not met very regularly lately, so I think we're maybe a third of the way done. So, but it desperately needs, it needs to be updated.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah,
2005?
3,
Yeah.
July 2003.
Yep.
And Laura's correct, in 2007, we actually brought it before the commissioners, the planning board did, and suggested that they just re-approve it as is, with no changes made, so.
Yeah, a lot has happened in
Been far
15
too
years,
long,
so.
yeah.
Right?
When will this grant be administered?
So the grant would be typically awarded this fall. Usually they come out, so we'll probably get through contracting with CDBG, with the county and the CDBG contract. Probably, I would say September, October this fall. The county will have to go out for RFQs for planning services. They require it for everybody. So you'll get through it. I would say by the end of the year, you would probably have that planner selected. Hopefully it's us. And then, so this would be a next year project. So I'm anticipating we would start in January. We would do the growth policy CIP concurrently. That way we can share the public process for both. So public meetings and stuff would be for both documents, instead of, it always costs more when you separate things out, right? Have to have multiple public meetings for different things. So we combine everything together into one process. So the work would be done next year, and I would say the grant would be closed out in the fall of 2019. We would have everything done by the end of 2019.
So you're gonna start it next calendar year, but it's part of, a major portion of it's gonna be in this fiscal year, right? It's gonna be in the 19 fiscal year.
Yes.
Motion's been made, you made a motion, made by motion and second to support this letter of support and also the acceptance of the CDBG program requirements. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Do you need updated letters of support or what we submitted
I
last
think
year?
I think the letters of support we have will probably be okay.
Okay,
Cause it's all for the same, it's all the same thing, so. I
Yeah.
think it'll be okay, I'll take a look at them if we do need to update them. I think we only had 2 or 3 anyway.
yeah,
Remember
if you need
right,
more, we can get more.
I'd like to get these submitted this week, so,
I
or
agree.
submitted this week, so. The longer you wait after the day they start taking them, you know. And of course, everybody else has been waiting too, so.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of them that they're gonna have to sift through, so. So, anyway, yeah.
Keep a copy of it at some point in time, since he needs it now.
And I'll
Can you
make-
send copies for Ann for the record?
Yes,
Just email,
Yes.
email.
I'll just send, the whole application. When we get
Sounds
it
good.
ready, I'll just send the whole thing, so. All right,
Thanks,
Thank
Jeremy.
you.
Thank you, Jerry.
have a great day.
You too.
So Debbie Kelly's not here for the 11, I guess we move to the 12 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta go grab them.
Franklin, we need your signature on this.
Do what? Oh,
Okay, thank you.
And do you want me to stay for the
I don't think you can, what we all need to do is fill out our own budget, so we oversee.
you just give me a call for some reason.
Okay,
Alrighty.
thanks, Ann. You don't wanna stay just for fun?
You know, it's always a learning process, but
I know, yeah, no, I appreciate it.
you bet.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if this will make sense to you, I might have to call her for you. Same thing, so. The ones per day, those meetings per day. That's less than 24 hours. Inmates per day, part-time, that's taking more than 24 hours, I mean, the total days, for people, so it's visible as more, average.
Okay, so we wanna go through revenues first or go through the expenditures?
For this.
Revenue, we really don't have the ability to bring in revenue.
Changes, okay.
Right, I mean, what we did, the additional interest that we get from the hospital bridge loan certainly is a benefit revenue-wise. And then also the turn lanes, the 27,000 in interest we made on that certainly is a benefit, but it's not really that we have a revenue line
Okay,
because we don't really have the avenue. We just have the avenue for good management, I guess, is the best we can do. And then, what we have from Debbie is, at this point, really just general fund as far as expenditures, which would be just our fund. we would put it to the department heads to do their own funds. So,
Okay, so the one thing that I have in here, and I don't know if it goes in revenues or expenditures, was that we need to bring in approximately 25,000 for our conversion to Blackfoot. So does that go into miscellaneous revenues or other miscellaneous, or would it be emergency needs in the revenue? This is where I just
that
I
would
just
be
stuck
an
it in here so
expenditure.
weird. That would be an expenditure, but we still
Right.
have to have it come in as revenue from Bill, right?
right, that would be something that actually Debbie would do, but we would not reflect it as revenue in the budget.
Okay,